Let us see about the methods of pricing. The process of determining what to charge the customers for food items, menus or food services may be termed as pricing. In commercial catering, prices depend a great deal on market trends because the proportion of fixed cost is relatively high and the profit margins expected are far more than those for non-commercial institutions. In non-commercial institutions, pricing takes on a cost-effective rather than a profit-making goal. What are the objectives? After studying this chapter, you should be able to know about the factors affecting pricing, learn about the different methods of pricing, and be aware of the pricing policies, strategies, and tactics. Factors affecting pricing. The factors affecting pricing are based on the special features of the establishment, the type of customer it attracts, and the nature of the external environment in which it operates. Food service establishment. The food service establishment comprises of various factors like its location, size, and type of organization and the service style followed. Location. The location of the food service establishment largely affects the prices charged to the customers. It is common experience to find that a coffee shop situated in the marketplace prices its products slightly lower than one in a posh residential area. This is because the former will have a larger sales volume than the latter, where only occasionally the residents may choose to have coffee outside their homes. The latter charges more because of its higher fixed cost structure, which then has to be recovered from the occasional customer. Size and type of establishment. The size and type of establishment has marked effect on the price structure of its menu and other services offered. For example, a plate of sandwiches sold by a roadside cafe may be priced at ₹5, whereas in a restaurant the customer may pay double or triple the price for the same product and portion to cover increased fixed cost per unit of sales. Alternatively, an adjustment may be made through a reduction in the portion size served for the same price. Menu. The composition of the menu determines pricing because of the direct relationship between food cost and selling prices. When sales are slack, cheaper substitute ingredients for dishes reduce food cost without altering the price usually charged. This helps to increase the profit margin and offset the impact of lowered sales volume. Similarly, changes in consistency or texture can affect portions served and consequently the prices charged. The type of menu also affects pricing. The larger the variety and flexibility offered on a menu, the greater will be the range of prices charged. Service style. Pricing is greatly affected by the style of service offered by an establishment. If a self-service system is followed, the prices fixed would not be required to cover service charges to the extent that they would in a restaurant that offers waiter services. A lower price structure is possible in a self-service or counter service facility because the sales volume is greater on account of higher customer turnover. For waiter services, however, staff cost increase, customer turnover is lower as people tend to eat more leisurely and larger amounts of cutlery, crockery and table appointments are necessary per cover. Thus, the total cost of establishments increase per unit of sale, pushing up the prices to ensure that estimated profit goals are achieved. Customer profile. The socio-economic status of customers largely determines what type of establishments they choose when they eat out. This is also influenced by the company they keep and entertain, the mood, the occasion and so on, which therefore lead customer to various establishments. In order to keep customers coming back to particular place, the management of catering organizations need to be sensitive to the changes in customer moods, season and so on. Goodwill once established with customers, the organization stands to gain at any price fixed by the competition. Purchasing power. Prices are affected by how much a customer is willing to pay for a particular food item or meal related to affordability as well as his or her concept of value for money. Very often, food service establishments adjust their prices to suit the purchasing power or willingness of the customer to pay in the hope of increasing their volume of sales. Food service managers generally have the impression that customers are very price conscious and aware of the cost structure of the various establishments. Some may therefore fix their prices too low to attract their customers, while others may hike the prices of their items in the hope that the customer will relate the price to the high quality offered. Both these attitudes to pricing are unrewarding. In fact, people decide in advance the general price category of the establishment they wish to go to. Further, their choice of menu takes care of their spending limits. Once customers have made their choice of the establishment where they wish to eat, then factors which do determine their preference are a place offering good food, well prepared and well served in pleasant and clean surroundings. Likes and dislikes of customers. More often than not, people go out to eat for a change from routine meal patterns or for other psychological or social reasons. Customer favorites can affect prices of items just as their dislikes can push up cost for the caterer through large quantities of unsold items. It is therefore important for caterers to study their sales record and menus to list out customers' choices and cash on their likes while avoiding dishes on menus which are not ordered frequently. Customer expectations. Basic expectations of customers eating out are variety, wholesome food providing good value for their money in a pleasant environment. However, people eat out for various reasons such as hunger, social get-together, serious discussion, loneliness, etc. and expectations can vary considerably from one customer to another in the same food service. Also, the same persons may have different moods and therefore different expectations at different times to which food service units should be able to adapt constantly. Environmental factors. Any factors in the environment which have an impact on food cost, labor cost, overhead expenses or sales volume affect pricing. Some such factors are poor harvest leading to less production of fresh fruits and vegetables, cereals, pulses, etc. and thereby higher prices charged for these food items. Sometimes diseases in farm animals can lead to shortage of good meats and makes them more expensive to buy. A transport strike may inhibit transportation of food from growing to manufacturing areas and to those of consumption, as well as pushing up food cost. Riots leading to curfew conditions can lead to a drastic fall in the number of customers, affecting the sales. Closure of markets affects the number of shoppers who generally visit coffee shops or cafes in the area, having its effect on sales volume. Inflationary conditions created by government policies involving export of foods or taxation trends encouraging the setting up of more food processing industries would result in a price rise for raw foods. Changes in weather conditions which keep people indoors can affect the number of customers in food service establishments. Shortages of fuels like electricity, cooking gas, coal, etc., which are so common in developing countries, can be responsible for increasing overhead costs and thereby affecting prices. The conditions in the environment, both external and internal, vary for each type of food service organization depending on government policies affecting food availability and prevailing demand and supply conditions at a particular time. Special pricing considerations. Sales tax. Depending on the government in power, it is likely that some form of sales tax may be enforced during its period of office. It is important to the customer to know whether prices displayed or quoted are inclusive of this sales tax or not. Service charges. This is an additional charge made to customers at a fixed percentage of the total cost of the food and beverage served. The fixed percentage is determined by management, printed on the menu, with the objective of removing from the customer the problem of determining what size of tip to give when in a particular establishment. Cover charge. This is an additional charge to a meal in restaurants to cover such cost as the bread roll and butter and items included but not priced on the menu. Minimum charge. This is often enforced by restaurants to discourage some potential clients from using the premises and to discourage clients from taking up a seat and only purchasing a very low priced item. Now let us see the pricing policy. Policy represents a framework of rules and constraints within which pricing decisions are required to be taken. Pricing policies can operate between two extremes. One can be a little more than a rationalization of rule of thumb judgments based on custom and practice. This usually happens in small self-owned and operated establishments where pricing decisions are made by one person. At the other end, policies may be formally spelt out in writing and constitute the following elements: raising return on capital over a specified period, passing on cost savings to high spending customers commensurate with the scale, continuity and stability of their demands through establishing discount structures, pricing non-standard items at levels related to their operating cost, sharing with customers the benefits obtained from improved productivity, retain flexibility to use marginal cost techniques for business opportunities that may arise, and review of standard margins to ensure equity across a range of items and services offered. Pricing strategy. Strategy involves a systematic plan for making pricing decisions over a period of time to achieve broader objectives of the food service institution. It involves recognition of the role of price as an active and important component of the marketing mix rather than an obstacle which needs to be overcome to compete successfully in the market. Strategies are lines of action to be adopted in management of external and internal influences which affect profitability of an institution. These are therefore subject to change when required, even though they are formulated within the policy framework of the establishment. Pricing strategies in catering establishments have traditionally been designed for short-term use and divided into two categories. They are cost-based strategies. As the name suggests, the cost involved in an operations form the focus on which the prices are based. Market-based strategies. In commercial catering, prices depend a great deal on market trends because the proportion of fixed cost is relatively high and the profit margins expected are far greater than those for non-commercial institutions. In these, pricing takes on a cost-effective rather than a profit-making goal. The methods of pricing evolved from these strategies are based on market forces and their effects on profitability of the establishment. These methods are qualitative in nature and do not always cover cost to the same extent in every situation and require knowledge of the market and the customer, both of which need to be innovatively and creatively managed for maximizing profits. These strategies are floor pricing. This refers to a pricing strategy that just covers the cost of an establishment, such as used by non-profit making food service institutions. Establishments such as orphanages and other government and social services operate on this strategy. Penetration pricing. This is a price for any product deliberately fixed lower than the competitors and one that the customers are used to paying. This is usually done when a new product, idea or innovation is introduced into the market. Parity pricing. In this case, the prices fixed for similar products and services are the same as competitors' prices. Premium pricing. This strategy allows price fixation at levels higher than competitors and ensures that they are what customers are used to paying. Leadership pricing. This involves being the leader in fixing prices by benchmarking them, although on the conservative side for the industry to follow. Stay out pricing. Prices fixed according to this strategy is indicative of the establishment wanting to stay out of the way of the competition. The prices fixed are therefore lower than the levels which demand can bear. Bundle pricing. In this, a set of products and services are clubbed together and charged at lower than the sum of the individual elements in the mix. Value-based pricing. Different segments charge different prices for the same product and services according to the value perceived in a situation. Managements use this concept when they subsidize the meals of employees to various extents in the hope of increasing productivity and thereby adding value to the establishment through increased profitability. Cross-benefit pricing. This strategy involves price adjustments between different products of the line that complement each other. Now let us see about the pricing tactics. Pricing tactics are methods of playing with the prices in a manner that they are presented to achieve optimum customer response against competition. Tactics thus work on the psychology of the buyer rather than on sound or rational economic judgments. Therefore, tactics act only in the short term to attract customers and may be changed during the life of the strategy of which they are a part. The factors, both internal and external, which provide the basis for defining pricing policy, strategy and tactics are internal: business goals, cost structures, custom and practice, degree of market knowledge of food service managers and feedback. External: competition, that is pricing behavior in the market, purchasing power, pressure from suppliers of raw materials and price elasticity of demand. Now let us see about the different methods of pricing. Pricing methods generally used in catering may be informal or formal in nature. The former being extensively used in small to medium establishments dealing with only food and beverage service. Formal methods, however, are usually quantitative in nature and employ the use of formulae which take into account the total investments made in the establishment. These methods are more specific and accurate with respect to profit management and pricing strategies of the establishment. They are therefore used by establishments which offer services like room services, office and conference facilities, etc., apart from service of food and beverage. Informal methods of pricing. They are usually qualitative in nature and do not always take into account the total investments made in the business. There are basically 4 methods in this category used by food service establishment. Intuitive. As the name suggests, This method is based on intuition about what the market will accept and not on any scientific analysis of investments and cost of investments. This method succeeds because of luck and cannot be depended upon for maximizing profits of the establishment or providing value for money to the customer. This method is referred to as rule of thumb method and is still used by small food vendors and in tea stall and dabas. Competitive. In this method, a caterer sets prices of items based on what competitors are charging their customers. While this method is slightly better than the intuitive one, it assumes that the products sold are similar in quality and cost and that the competitors have priced them profitably. This method, however, does not necessarily achieve the profit or rate of return objectives set for the success of the establishment. In fact, the profits may fluctuate very easily with price rises, employee demands and so on. Imitative. In this method, the prices are set by following those of the most successful establishments in the same class of food services. This method, however, has the same disadvantages as a competitive method because the costing structures of the establishments may differ dramatically, as also the guidelines by which a successful organization is judged. Such pricing methods may therefore not necessarily prove profitable in the long run or be customer friendly. Trial and error. As the name suggests, in this method, various price levels are tried and the sales arrived at each price are recorded over time. The price at which the highest sales volume is achieved is then selected and used. This method does not take into account the seasonality of demand, sales mix, competition or other environmental influences affecting the success of any establishment. Formal methods of pricing. Formal pricing methods are usually based on mathematical calculations from which formulae are established for use in determining the prices. These methods usually take into account factors like capital investment and expected rate of return, expected sales volume and actual operational cost. The most common formal methods of pricing are cost plus pricing. This method involves the calculation of the food cost per unit of sales and then a given percentage of gross profit is added to the value to arrive at the selling price per unit. This percentage is intended to cover the cost of labor and overhead expenses while also leaving a margin of net profit. The net profit percentage required will depend on the pricing policy of the particular establishment. Food operations generally add 150% to food cost. The cost plus method is easy to apply and understand and is therefore widely used. It has, however, certain disadvantages like cost plus pricing is based on cost and does not take into account the demand for the product or service. Its indiscriminate use therefore becomes irrational. Net profit becomes the direct function of sales turnover. The gross profit margin is added to the food cost and the net profit is unrelated to the capital invested. Rate of return pricing. This method is based on the relationship of net profit to capital investment. By this method, the likelihood of reaching net profit targets is greater provided that the estimated sales target is achieved and the gross profit margins are maintained. The rate of return method of pricing, however, also has some disadvantages. It is purely profit oriented and has little scope for flexibility. Its approach to pricing problems is too simple to be realistic. It does not generally go by the demands of the customer or the market. Factor pricing. In this method, a simple factor is calculated based on the estimated food cost percentage on which an establishment wishes to work by virtue of its catering policy or past profit and sales experience. This factor is also called the markup factor, which is then applied to the food cost per unit to determine the selling price. Subsidy pricing. This method of pricing is usually used by management for the benefit of their employees with the objective of boosting their morale and encouraging higher productivity, as in the case of employee canteens and social institutions. Subsidies are generally offered to varying extents depending on the catering policy. Some establishments provide free meals to their employees and thereby subsidize their meals 100% by bearing the total cost of the food consumed by the employees. In other cases, employees pay enough to just cover the cost of food while management covers the cost of production. Discount pricing. Discounting involves the practice of charging the customers less than the declared rates on products, menus or services. This is usually practiced to enhance sales during festivals and other celebrations by offering specials for the day, group discounts, buffet and providing corporate or contract facilities. Price management. Price fixation apart, another important element often ignored is price management, which includes price monitoring, leveraging price changes and promotions to strategic and long-term advantage. The key elements to price management involve tracking down brand loyalty, providing price stability, product substitutability, and switching cross-tactically to advantage. Making pricing decisions. Pricing decisions are generally made at higher levels of management from where the establishment can be viewed in its total perspective with an understanding of the impact of different pricing policies on profitability. Pricing decisions are affected by the elasticity of demand, the cost structure of the enterprise, and its pricing policy. All pricing decisions should achieve the goal of profit maximization, whether the focus of decisions is maximizing sales through efficient resource utilization, reducing cost, or by other means involving economic or public relations issues. To summarize, whatever method of pricing is used by an organization, it is imperative that prices fixed for food items need to bring in profits over an accounting period. It is vital to bear in mind that all calculations of cost, menu prices and profit margins need to be reviewed from time to time to inculcate changes in cost structures. Thank you.